You know, like I said before, I do have a lot of love for Halo as a franchise despite my issues with the current state of things. It's a fantastic series that I have a lot of fond memories with, and I'm legitimately hopeful that Halo Infinite will be as great, if not better, than some of its predecessors. I actually held off on recording this final section until after 343's gameplay presentation on July 23rd because I wanted to see what they had to show us first, and to be honest, it looks fantastic. It seems to have gotten rid of my biggest gameplay gripes from Halo 5 while adding mechanics that I think may be genuinely really fun. The only negative I can really see from the campaign preview is the sprint, but like I said before, that's a fairly minor issue and can be easily forgiven so long as the rest of the game is good. Personally, I'm actually kind of excited to see how the grappling hook feels during gameplay.
I really like this game.
Halo Infinite is exactly what Halo 5 should have been. Is it perfect? No. It has plenty of issues that I will 100% be making fun of here. But if there's anything that can be said about it, at least it isn't this.
The other humans are approved for passage. Regretfully, you are not.
That sounds like a threat.
Vacate his shelter now. That was a threat, all right.
This game does what I wish 343 Studios had done from the start when they first took over Halo. Infinite doesn't take the Halo 4 route of making a bland, formulaic game that plays it safe and adds nothing worthwhile, nor does it take the Halo 5 route of completely abandoning the core of what makes Halo Halo. It maintains the series staples that make Halo so fun and unique while building off of them and experimenting with new ideas to make a brand new experience. Not everything Infinite experiments with here is executed perfectly. Sometimes it's even executed pretty fucking poorly, but it finally feels like Halo's moving forward in a positive direction. This game may be the game that saves Halo from becoming a relic of a bygone era. So, let's explain why.
Hello? Who's there?
I am the Chum Goblin, and I am here to steal your chum.
No. Not my chum. Not my chum!
Guys, I'm sorry to break it to you all. I know this will be very hard for a lot of you to hear, but it needs to be said. Master Chief does sprint in this game, and it's not an equipable item that cools down. I know. It makes me sad too. But it's okay. Because the rest of the gameplay is pretty fucking baller. By and large, this game's combat rejects the direction Halo 5 took and makes a return to form. No more weird charge shit, no more ground pounds, and no more ally AI to revive you.
Get the fuck away from me.
Just some good old rootin', tootin', and shootin'. Infinite, of course, has most of the classic guns we all know and love, like the assault rifle, the battle rifle, plasma pistol, needler, energy sword, and others. But it also adds plenty of new weapons that I ended up enjoying way more than I thought I would. Just to name a few, you've got the Cinder Shot, which basically feels like an alien grenade launcher. You've got the Skewer, which is fantastic for dealing with enemy vehicles. And my personal favorite new weapon, the Shock Rifle, which is basically a sniper that can EMP vehicles. Which is good, because for some reason the plasma pistol no longer does.
Why would you take this from me?
It's also worth noting that they added these ammo canisters, which as the name implies can be used to refill ammo of different weapon types. Which means with the exception of certain special weapons like energy swords or grav hammers, you can actually refill your ammo without having to find that specific weapon laying on the ground. Which to be honest, I kind of have mixed feelings about this. The dumbfuck Halo purist part of my brain really doesn't like this, because it feels like it's dumbing down the tactical side of things a bit because now you don't have to conserve your ammo quite as much. But on the flip side, I always fucking hated having to save my shotgun ammo because I was always scared that I wouldn't be able to find another fucking shotgun on the ground. I just want to go blam blam! So I don't know, I could honestly take it or leave it. But these are all just additions to your arsenal, new weapons for gunplay that isn't noticeably that different from prior games, Halo 5 excluded. Vehicles and enemies also behave more or less the same as they have in prior games, so there isn't much to talk about here either. So let's talk about something a little more interesting.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet, nigga. Hey.
I feel like the first proper gameplay addition I talk about should be the grappling hook, mostly because this game really wants to emphasize the grappling hook. Like, they really want you to love this thing. And I do. I love it a lot. The grappling hook may genuinely be the greatest armor ability ever put into a Halo game, largely due to its fucking insane utility. Sure, you can use it to get to high up areas or make a quick getaway in a sticky situation, but you can also use it to quickly grab a weapon without even getting out of cover. Or you can use it to steal an enemy vehicle, or just straight up grapple an enemy themselves so you can get in quickly and whack! It also isn't the only new tool they give you. As you progress through the game, Infinite gives you a variety of armor abilities to work with, similar to what was introduced in Halo 3 and arguably perfected in Reach. And by arguably, I mean fucking absolutely. The difference here, however, is that these aren't limited use, nor can you only have one equipped at a time. Once you unlock an ability, you can break it out whenever you want. Unfortunately, however, I literally never found myself in a situation where I wanted to use anything other than the grappling hook. Sure, the dash ability can help you get out of the way quickly, but so can the grappling hook? The threat sensor can help you detect enemies you can't immediately see, but again, I never really found myself in a situation where I needed to. The wall drop is okay once you upgrade it, but again, grappling hook? None of the abilities outside of the grappling hook ever really feel like they're worth the trouble of actually switching over to them, whereas the grappling hook is useful in basically every situation. It just creates this feeling of, why are these even in the game? The hook shot is, unironically, too good. Everything else feels like shit by comparison. I feel like the game would have benefited from having more interesting and generally useful abilities to choose from. I spent a good amount of time while playing this game debating in my head whether or not the fact that you can swap to these other abilities whenever you want, and not really having to choose one at any given time a la Halo Reach, hurt or benefited the experience. But honestly, the way they made one so unbelievably superior to all the others, I don't actually think it matters in the end. Anyways, the moral of the story is we need more grappling hooks in video games, please and thank you. And keep in mind, this ability doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's so much fun not just because how it can be used in any combat situation, but also because of how it can be used to help explore the open world.
And the reward for the world's greatest transition line goes to SystemFreez.
Oh my god, thank you so much. Oh, I don't even have a speech prepared. Oh god, this is such an honor. Oh god.
Why isn't there a fucking snow level in this game?
Infinite Open World is, generally speaking, a very positive addition to Halo. However, it clearly needs a lot of work if this is the route 343 is going to stick to in future games. Infinite Open World is extraordinarily beautiful to look at. There's not a single area in this map I visually disliked. However, it does suffer from a severe lack of variety. The entire open world is essentially the first mission on the Halo ring from Combat Evolved stretched out to cover an entire game, which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic in a way. I love that mission from a visual standpoint. However, there's a reason Combat Evolved didn't make every single level look exactly like that. There's only so many trees and cliffsides you can look at before you would like to see something else. And I find it absolutely baffling that there isn't anything else in this game outside of some linear mission segments where you're inside of a building or a ship the whole time. This kind of ties in with another issue I have with Infinite's open world structure, and that's its lack of any sort of wow moments throughout its campaign. One of the biggest strong suits of prior Halo games was their incredible set pieces. It's one of the pros of designing a more linear game. You have the potential to easily funnel players into interesting, highly memorable game sections. To this day, one of my favorite parts of any Halo campaign is the assault on the library in Combat Evolved. Having to push my way through hordes of Flood, an enemy that at this point was still a new threat, left an impression on me that will never go away. Halo 2 has these really cool sections where you get to participate in what is essentially a Covenant civil war. Halo 3 has this incredible moment where you get to watch the Forward Unto Dawn land right in front of you so you can see just how absolutely fucking massive these ships really are. Halo Infinite has none of this. And I think this is partly due to the nature of an open world game. It's not impossible to have incredible set pieces in open world games. Others certainly have done it before. However, when you can't really dictate when, how, or from where a player will arrive at a place, it's infinitely more difficult to structure these moments to really drive home a moment or event in an interesting way. Again, it's not impossible, but it is far more difficult to execute properly. And it feels like Infinite saw that difficulty and just sort of didn't try. Every mission that takes place out in the open world just consists of you going to a place, killing whoever's there waiting for you, and then maybe defending yourselves from a couple waves of enemies that are big mad at you. Even in the more linear sections where they could have more easily structured these wow moments, they just don't. Without getting into any spoilers, the only linear mission where they try to do something more interesting than having you go into a room and killing everything that's there is towards the very beginning, where you're racing to get out of an exploding ship. You don't get any other gameplay moments that offer anything unique. It's all just the same shit. Outside of this lack of unique set pieces, however, I did find myself enjoying the general gameplay loop in the open world. There isn't a very wide variety of missions for you to do, mostly just taking forward operating bases, which basically act as fast travel points and show you nearby objectives you can do, helping out stranded troops, taking care of a few banished outposts, and tracking down slightly tougher enemies. However, the ability to get into these missions with basically whatever loadout you want does lead to a very fun experience, especially considering just how innately fun Halo's combat always is. I genuinely think Halo's classic combat experience meshes very well with this new open world. As you do more missions, you unlock more vehicles and weapons that you can get your hands on at forward operating bases you capture, and even get more Marines to spawn there to come with you if you want. This game does genuinely reward you for going out and doing extra missions, especially because these unlocks can actually help you with the main story as well, not just for tackling other optional missions. But again, much like with the visual appeal of the map, much more variety is going to be needed going forward. Despite my enjoyment here, there really are so many times where you can do the same few things over and over before you want something more. Don't get me wrong, it's still very fun, but only having a few types of objectives to do does not make the idea of 100%ing this game seem very enticing. Oh, and as a complete side note, giving a bunch of Marines the upgraded Sentinel Beam and putting them all in a Razorback is the most broken shit, I swear to God. As I said before, I do genuinely think the open world is a good direction for Halo to go in. There's a lot to truly enjoy here. I had a great time exploring the ring, especially endgame when I was actively looking for skulls. Some of the discovery moments I had looking for these things felt absolutely incredible. Look at this shit, this is so fucking cool. Horatio, Horatio, wherefore out is there fucking alien cock, Horatio? But if this really is how Halo games are going to be structured going forward, way more effort needs to be put into these maps. There's a strong core here that has a ton of potential, but it needs far more variety, not only visually, but also in terms of objectives populating the map. Also, please, for the love of God, let us replay linear missions. How? How is that not a thing already? If I miss a skull in one of these missions, I do not want to have to start a whole new file and replay the entire goddamn game up to that point just to try again. What the fuck?
Hey, Chief.
Halo Infinite's campaign, just by way of having to follow up on Halo 5's, was inherently placed into a rough spot. Halo 5 undid every bit of good that Halo 4 did for Master Chief and Cortana as characters, and placed us on a weird cliffhanger where Cortana was basically Emperor fucking Palpatine. I was really worried as Infinite's release date approached about how they would explore Halo 5's ending, and to my surprise, they just fucking didn't. They just fucking skipped that whole mess entirely. God Emperor Cortana gets beaten by the Covenant 2 Electric Boogaloo and fucking dies off screen with no mention of what happens to her unbeatable super machines. Fuck you. Okay, so we're basically doing a hard reset on the story, and to be honest, I'm fine with it. Whatever. Ignore the Guardian shit entirely and just make the Banished our new bad guys. Fine? Alright, cool. At least we can move on from the whole Cortana thing. Let her die, let her die, let Cortana fucking die! Look, I get it, you want to undo the shit 5 did to her character, that's fine, but oh my god, the way they'd go about it is so fucking sloppy. So in order for them to beat Cortana off screen, they decide to make a copy of her to lock her down, but in order to make sure she doesn't turn evil like the original Cortana does, they take away her memories and instruct Chief to delete her after the mission is complete. Except that's fucking stupid, because Halo 5 clearly showed it wasn't her memories that made her evil, it was the fact that she was modeled after Halsey's brain, which made her willing to do anything for the perceived greater good. If the weapon is a copy of Cortana, she still has that same issue. So literally all it would take for Weapon to side with Cortana is like one civil conversation between them. Oh my god, this is fucking dumb! Why do you look like a cosplayer wearing a foam suit? This whole thing is frustrated because Halo 4 let her character end in the perfect place. Her death was exactly what Master Chief's character needed, and they've just committed to throwing that whole thing away. I genuinely think I would have preferred it if the only friendly companion in this game was the Pelican pilot, Echo 216. Imagine how much more interesting this story could have been if he was literally the only person on this entire ring on your side. Just you and him versus the entire Banished Armada. But alas, instead we get to have Master Chief's entire arc with Cortana completely reset because my iconic character. Fuck you. On the note of having limited friendlies on this ring, I also noticed an annoying disconnect between how much of the UNSC Infinity's crew the game says survived, and how much you actually encounter. The game's story and cutscenes constantly hammer on about how utterly crushed the UNSC was, and that it's basically just Chief, Echo, and Weapon left. However, there's actually, like, a lot of Marines? Like, a lot, they're fucking everywhere. Once you have enough valor, all of your bases are absolutely filled to the brim with Marines that you can take out with you into the world. And the story never really acknowledges this. They just continue pretending like you're all alone, but you're not. There's people right fucking here! It's good to see Halo's tradition of having the dumbest fucking AI imaginable is still intact. Halo truly is back. The Banished and Eshram themselves make for decent enough antagonists, albeit a bit bland as they're functionally just a less interesting Covenant, and the whole thing around the Harbinger setting up what will likely be the next game's antagonist was handled fine enough. It kind of looks like they're hinting at these guys being the precursors, which is certainly interesting from a lore perspective. We'll have to just wait and see what they do with it. As I mentioned before, there aren't really any wow moments throughout the campaign, but outside of the dumb Cortana shit, there also really isn't anything that annoys me too bad either. The story itself is just kind of decent. Hopefully Atriox will prove to be a more interesting main bad guy than Eshram did. I think the best compliment I can really think to give this game's story is that I noticed the game's cutscenes will actually show Master Chief wielding whatever weapon the player actually had equipped at the time. It's not a huge deal, but I still thought it was pretty cool. It certainly does help things to feel a bit more immersive, though it is disappointing that most of this game's cutscenes choose to be these single rotating camera scenes where you don't really get any interesting cinematography. We get to have a camera spin around while Master Chief talks to new Cortana again. Cool. With any luck, now that the game has pretty successfully realigned the series' plotline, Halo will be able to move forward with far more interesting stories and villains. I don't think the story in Infinite was bad, it just isn't really on par with most of what Bungie was able to come up with during their reign. It's certainly 343's best story so far, but again, that bar is... that bar's pretty low. Anyways, more of this dude, please. I fucking love him.
Just one question. What if we miss?
I think one of the most interesting things I noticed while playing this game is that it almost feels like a sort of love letter to Combat Evolved. The art style is obviously greatly inspired by early Halo games. They both have a plot that revolves around Chief being stranded on a Halo ring. Hell, the story even makes a bunch of very direct references to the events of Combat Evolved.
Just dust and echoes. We had no choice. Dust and echoes?
We destroyed the first ring. Lost a lot of good people.
I don't know how you keep doing this.
I don't have a choice. Maybe it's my programming.
343 clearly took a ton of inspiration from that original game, which I think is pretty fitting considering my general opinion of Infinite as a whole. For all the time I spent making fun of Infinite's faults, it is a game I genuinely enjoyed. This game has the core of something great. Did it need more polish? Certainly. If this is the direction 343 wants to take the series in, they're gonna need to put in a lot more work for its sequels to truly shine. But that same thing could fairly have been said about Combat Evolved back in 2001. Combat Evolved was an enjoyable game that had a lot of potential, but absolutely could have used much more polish. And what did Bungie do afterwards? They polished like a motherfucker. They turned a decent, albeit very imperfect game into an amazing trilogy beloved by millions. And I honestly think 343, if they put in the work, can do the same thing with Infinite. If I had to work this game into the rankings I gave at the end of my Halo series retrospective, I honestly think I would put it right here, tied with Combat Evolved. It took them a long time to finally make a game on par with Bungie's most lackluster Halo, but hey, you know what? They got there eventually. And hopefully, with a lot of luck and a lot of effort, maybe they could make something on par with, or possibly even better than some of Bungie's best stories. Halo is finally back. For real this time. And I cannot wait to see what the future has in store for this series. made that last Halo video and I made a joke about how I wildly overspent on this dumb fucking helmet? Well, now I've used it in 2 separate videos, which means it is officially an investment. It's not a bad purchase. Fuck you. That hit my cock.